I had been called to plenty of emergencies aboard Elyndra Spire, but the tone in the summons made it different. The message came from an insectoid coordinator whose voice shook so badly that I could barely catch the words before the channel cut. That alone told me something was wrong. The healers of Elyndra prided themselves
on composure. For them to call a human meant they had already given up. The spire itself.
It was a strange place to work. It was not built but grown, its architecture a lattice of luminous crystal that pulsed faintly like a heartbeat. The walls resonated with low harmonics, a constant reminder that
the station was alive in some inscrutable way.
Of deep-sea creatures. Normally, I found it calming. That day, the glow felt colder. I followed the call to one of the sanctuary's sealed wards, where rare and dangerous species were treated. When I arrived, I found a crowd of alien medics clustered far back from a reinforced tank. Their carapaces, scales, and feathers all shimmered under sterile lamps, but their eyes shared one thing: fear. None dared come close. The tank was not empty. Inside, suspended in a diluted saline solution, writhed a creature that filled the chamber from end to end. Its armored flanks glimmered dark blue, streaked with deep lacerations. Bioluminescent lines traced across its body, pulsing irregularly with stress. I had read about Thrykos before, but I never thought I would see one alive. They were ocean leviathans, bred by a storm world to be indestructible. A single adult could sink ships by breaching beneath them. Apex predator was too soft a term. The alien healers recoiled. When I approached the glass, a tall avian physician snapped its beak in agitation and warned me away. They said the creature had been thrashing for 3 cycles. Too dangerous, they claimed. Too unpredictable. In their words, it was not worth the risk. But as I looked closer, I saw something they did not. The creature's movements were not attacks. They were defensive coils, their massive body always curving around one side. Along its flank, a gash ran deep through scale and flesh. Each shudder sent dark fluid into the water. Its luminous eye, brighter than a lantern, flicked toward me. Sea fury. I saw a silent plea. Fear kept the others frozen. But fear was not what I had been trained for. I had worked with razor-winged scavengers, beasts that could snap bone in seconds. I had treated parasites that liquefied organs, and serpents that saw heat through walls. All of them had been dangerous, yes, but they had also been alive, and alive meant vulnerable. I stripped my gloves from their seals and stepped forward. The avian physician shrieked that I was insane. Another healer warned me that the Thrykos would crush me against the tank wall. Their words blurred into background noise. The access hatch hissed, open as I keyed in my clearance. I entered the chamber slowly, water lapping just above my waist. The leviathan stilled, its immense body tensing. Every instinct told me I should turn back, but instincts could be wrong. I opened my hand, showing the algae ration I had carried since my last field trip. A dull green wafer, preserved from a world the Thrykos would know. Then, in a motion so swift it blurred, the leviathan extended a maw lined with crystal fangs. My heart seized, then released as it closed gently around the wafer, swallowing without a ripple. Its luminous eye settled on me again. The glow softened. I moved closer, slow as breath, until I could reach the wounded flank. The heat of its body vibrated through the water. With careful hands, I applied a capsule of dissolving nanomed gel, watching it spread like liquid light across the torn scales. The thrashing ceased. The Thrykos let out a sound I could only describe as a rumble carried through water. a vibration that resonated in my chest. The alien medics outside the glass fell silent. I felt their stares as the leviathan uncoiled,
lowering itself beside me. It made no move to attack, no surge of violence. Instead, it lingered, its
massive body sinking into stillness as if relieved. The eye blinked once, luminous lids sliding shut and open.
Again. I remained where I was, hand still pressed to its healing flank.
What the others already feared. The creature had chosen me. And that choice was something no one on Elyndra Spire had expected, least of all me. The healers of Elyndra did not celebrate the success. They retreated,
further from the tank, whispering in their own languages, their feathers and frills raised in alarm. I remained, waist deep in the saline, one hand still on the Thrikos's wounded flank. Its breathing had slowed, body settling into long tidal rhythms. To me, it looked calm. To them, it looked like the calm of a
storm eye, the stillness before destruction. When I finally left the chamber, the avian physician confronted me, with wings spread wide. It said the creature would never leave now. I thought it was an exaggeration. Born of fear until another healer, a crystalline being with a voice like shattering glass, asked what it meant. Their silence stretched too long before someone finally explained. On rare occasions, when a Thrikos was treated during the most vulnerable stage of injury, which could form an anchor bond. Not companionship. Not submission, territory. I was now part of it. Or it was part of me. Either way, it would just not leave. I laughed at the absurdity. They did not. The crystalline healer told me bluntly that I
had condemned the station to danger. A bonded Thrikos would not tolerate threats. It would lash out at
anything it perceived as hostile. I wanted to argue, but then I felt it. A low tremor through the floor, followed by the faint resonance of that same deep water rumble. Even outside the chamber, its presence pressed against me like an unseen tide. I returned to my quarters, thinking distance might help, might break the bond. It did not. Hours later, I awoke to find the corridor outside glowing faintly.
Faintly. The Leviathan had followed, pressed along the walls like a ship-sized shadow, its luminous eye fixed steadily on my door. Every step it had taken, the spire had grown to accommodate, crystal reshaping.
The others stared as though I had brought death inside their sanctuary. The spire shuddered under impact, harmonic tones fracturing into discordant shrieks.
Unauthorized docking detected. Multiple boarding craft. Security teams.
Raiders. Not the petty kind that preyed on lonely transports. These were organized, coordinated, and desperate enough to assault a sanctuary bristling with defenses. I could imagine what they wanted. The genetic vaults housed samples
from hundreds of species. To the right buyers, such material was worth more than fleets. The healers panicked,
scattering like frightened birds. Some shrieked that the Thrikos must be sedated immediately.
Me to command it, as though I held some secret control. I had none. The Leviathan was no weapon to wield. Yet when the spire groaned again, and I stumbled to the floor, it lowered its massive body beside me, shielding me from falling shards. Its eye glowed brighter, unblinking, fixed on the
direction of the docking bays. Irrelevant either. The imprint was real. It had chosen me as anchor, and that meant it would act.
In relation to me, protecting, defending. Not random violence, but something more precise. The first raiders appeared in
the corridor soon after, their weapons glinting under the crimson lights. They moved with cruel efficiency, scanning doors,
kicking them open, and dragging out staff. My pulse thundered as I pressed myself against a crystalline bulkhead.
The healers cowered behind me, muttering prayers. I had no weapon, was a bonded leviathan waiting just beyond the corridor bend. So I did the only thing that came on naturally. I stepped into view. Hands raised, posture relaxed, I called out in the galactic trade tongue. I told them I was a human xenobiologist, unarmed, just a doctor. Laughter crackled from their helmets. They leveled weapons at me, mocking. And then the corridor darkened. The Thrykos emerged like a tide of shadow, crystal scales catching the red light in jagged rattle teeth. For an instant, the raiders froze, prey caught in the sight of something older than fear.
Itself. Then one panicked and fired.
The shot barely left the barrel before the leviathan moved. It did not lunge like a beast, but flowed like a current. A wall of armored flesh slamming down the corridor. The raiders were gone in heartbeats, scattered.
One was pinned under a single claw, unharmed but unable to move. Another fled outright, screaming into the crimson-lit passage.
The corridor fell silent, except for the thrum of alarms. The healers stared at me as if I
had conjured a god. My own breath shook, but not from fear, from disbelief.
The Thrykos turned back, luminous eye finding me. And in that gaze, I knew it had not acted for itself. It had turned. I exhaled, whispering into the stillness. So it's true. You've chosen me.
The battle in the corridor had been only the beginning. Word spread quickly across Elyndra Spire that a Thrykos was loose,
bonded to a human. Fear rippled through every sector, yet the raiders pressed their advantage, forcing docking clamps deeper, driving security back step by step. The sanctuary's crystalline walls thrummed with pain, harmonics splintering as systems failed. I moved with the leviathan at my psyche, its massive body filling half the corridor, each step shaking the floor. Healers and researchers scattered out of the way, their eyes wide, their voices rising in disbelief and accusation.
Some cursed me for unleashing it. Others begged me to command it, as though I had a leash hidden in my pocket. The truth was stranger. I could only walk, and it chose to follow. When we reached the central atrium, I saw the full extent of the attack. Through vast panes of living crystal.
Inside, squads swept toward the genetic vaults. But worse, the control hub had been seized. The Spire's voice had been silenced. The alien medics who trailed behind me pleaded for evacuation. They said the Thrykos would only add to the chaos, that I had doomed us all.
I ignored them, eyes locked on the hub, guarded by raiders in heavy armor. I knew I had no weapon, but I had something far older. Its bioluminescent eye swiveled toward me, glow steady, waiting. I spoke softly, not words it could understand, but tone, cadence, trust. Then I turned and walked forward. It followed, massive head brushing low ceiling. We slipped through maintenance channels, crystal corridors twisting like veins. The Leviathan compressed its body, scales shifting as though molded by pressure. It moved with a grace that belied its size, adapting to the spire's living walls. I could feel its patience, its focus, not rage. When at last we reached the control hub, I left it waiting in shadow. Then I stepped into the light. The raider leader stood at the consoles,
her cybernetic limbs bristling with weapons. She turned at once, leveling a gun at my chest. I raised my hands, calm as I could manage.
I told her I was unarmed, only a doctor.
She laughed bitterly, saying that meant I was useless to her cause.
I countered with a lie, that the vaults could not be accessed without my clearance, that the spire itself would collapse if tampered with.
She sneered, calling my bluff.
I smiled as if I were telling the truth. The seconds stretched, each heartbeat hammering against my ribs.
Behind me, in the crystalline dark, the leviathan waited.
And then, the wall fractured. The Thrykos surged through like a tidal breach.
Shards scattered like spray. Raiders stumbled, firing wildly.
It struck with impossible speed, sweeping raiders aside like driftwood. The leader barely had time to raise her weapon before a claw pinned her.
The size of my torso, the claw held her frozen, eyes wide with primal terror.
I stepped forward through the chaos, brushing dust from my jacket.
I told her surrender was her only choice.
Her weapon clattered to the ground. One by one, the others followed, undone by fear itself.
When the fighting ended, the control hub pulsed back to life, harmonic tones soothing as the spire resumed breathing. Security teams flooded in moments later, their jaws dropping at the sight of me standing beside a creature that should have torn the station apart. The leviathan lowered its massive body, curling around me, luminous eye fixed only on my movements.
The healers accused me of catastrophe. They said this bond would never end, that the...
Perhaps they were right. Yet when I looked into that bioluminescent eye...
Later, alone in my quarters, I felt its presence before I heard it.